Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory. Williams is the running back next to Howe. Play action. Howe will now lob it down the near side. Newsom with a man all over him. Pins the ball against the back of the defender and brings it in. Heels can get a first down at the 3. Howe, pump fake to the right. Now he's going to run to the left. Howe at the 5. Takes the shot. Pinballing off the chains for the touchdown. Showing the toughness for 6. Cardinals down 4, 35-31. May has the shotgun snap. Pressure coming. Rolls to the right. Goes to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Antoine Green! 16 seconds to go. No flag. Snapping it off the 8-yard line. May pulls it, tries to roll it apart. Oh, now he's going to throw it and score! Throws it to Paytor in the end zone for the touchdown. They have thrown this play through the left hand. Was walking out on the run and threw it left-handed. Nard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio, he's going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
What's going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. It's your host, Anthony Pagnotta, here with you guys as always. And tonight, you see it, guys. We're rocking with a three-man crew here for the second time this year. We had Bryn Renner on with us earlier this year. He did not get to sit through that glorious intro. I know, Bryn, I feel a little embarrassed. We don't have enough Bryn Renner in there. We got to get some highlights in there from your career at some point, besides the Gio kick return. But hey, it's really, those are the exciting moments that we've had in Tar Heel football recently. We'll have a new one next year, so that's the good news. Next year, we'll make sure that we work you into the intro there. But I'm glad to have you here along with us tonight. How you been doing, man?
Yeah, man, appreciate you guys having me. And don't put me in there because I get nostalgia because I miss watching Sam and Drake play. I think that was the biggest thing I took from the intro. The intro is phenomenal, but we don't know how good we had it, boys. So please leave me out of it and put more Giovanni Bernard and Sam and Drake. Let's just leave it as it is.
All right. Hey, no reason to not have those guys in there, and you don't have to give us an excuse to put some of those highlight moments in there from those guys. But, look, we're talking to a former NFL quarterback here. I got to ask you this question first.
Yeah, absolutely. Is
there a way, because I have Drake's jersey, I have Sam's jersey, I have Mitch Trubisky's first jersey, and I have the TJ Yates Houston Texans jersey. Man. Is it possible for me to find a Bryn Renner Baltimore Ravens jersey? Do you think that's possible?
I got one in my closet over here. So are you going to be at the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I will.
All right, I'll bring it to you. Done deal.
Okay. That's awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate it. No, that's cool because, look, man, I remember that time. And then all I have to do is I have to find a way to get Marquise to give me his Packers one. And then we're set. Then I got the whole lineup of all you guys.
Hey, I'll get on Queese about that. We'll definitely make that happen.
Hey, man. No, it's really cool to have you back. This year, man, it's been a roller coaster, man. It started out so negative, in terms of just how bad this team was in some of the power conference games that they played. I really wanted to have you on last week, but I just couldn't work up the courage to ask you to come on last week. So I waited until this week, and unfortunately, we're coming off another loss. But this season, it's been all over the place. That we had the highs of the last few weeks where Carolina was playing really well. They ended up winning the games against Syracuse and Stanford, and it got us thinking, man, Carolina can still make a bowl game here, and then they fall on the road to Wake Forest. So when it comes to just the overall feeling of where you are going into this game against Duke, where do you sort of stand? How do you feel about this team's chances of making a bowl game?
Yeah, guys, I think it's a great question. We're 10 weeks into this, and I called the game on Saturday with Jones, and I drove back to Washington D.C. And it was like the 48 hours of just disappointment, and kind of just like, man, we really just lost to Wake, and it wasn't how we lost; it was kind of just the way that they kind of ended it, right? And it was a tough game. I think it's been a tough season overall. Players, coaches, fans, everybody. And I think there were some lofty expectations that we kind of got humbled in certain different ways. I certainly know I did. But I think when you look at this season and you have 10 weeks body of work, the kids have really played hard. I think the coaches have coached hard. I think it just comes down to, we just haven't made enough plays. Like, we've been a couple inches short. We've been a couple, a fumble and beating UVA. And there's just been a lot of things that haven't gone our way in certain games, and it's been a consistent theme throughout the year. So it's been disappointing. But when I look at this game, you really have to approach, I say every game in the state, you really have to approach like the team's going to play 14 points better than they are on film. And that's just because of the rivalry. I mean, I've been a part of this, I was a part of that for 5 years, and then 4 years as a starter. And I don't know why every time you played either the red or the different color blue that we all hate, it was different. And then, I think the biggest thing that I see from this team is the lack of ability to score points. And I think we all see that. It's very obvious that we are struggling to put the ball in the end zone. And if you can't score, you can't win. And we're kind of seeing that. And I think that's going to be something that has to be addressed in the offseason as far as where we go. And the coaches get paid money to make those decisions. So I'm not going to be able to make those. But we all kind of understand what needs to happen. But, as far as a holistic approach of where this team is now, I think it's pretty much the same team that we've seen. They rely heavily on their defense and then try to get, any type of things going offensively to try to go score touchdowns. And when we do that, we look great in the second half of Syracuse. We look great in the second half of Stanford, right? Like, if we could bottle up those second halves, because in the first half, boys, we haven't looked good. Mm-hmm. And that's flat out honest, and especially running the ball. We've struggled the last 3 games to generate any type of running momentum. So I think that's kind of been what I've been seeing. But I think the defense is playing really, really well. Besides a couple possessions against Wake Forest where they kind of, look, you're going to give up points. Eventually, you're going to be tired, and that's kind of what happened in 2 fluke plays, a trick play, and a guy picked up a fumble and ran it 50 yards. That's really 2 touchdowns. And so I think that's what this team is. They're a defensive, set up team, and the offense has to kind of try to get 14 on the board to give us a chance. So hopefully we can do that Saturday.
You mentioned, the inability to score points. If you can't score, you can't win, which is just fantastic analysis by you, by the way. On Saturday, Carolina could move the ball. It felt like from their own 20 to the Wake 40, and then it was like the drive would just stall. I think we moved it 6 times inside their 40-yard line, but only 12 points to show for it. You have a different view than we have sitting up in the booth. What stood out to you about why Carolina could move it so far into Wake's territory, and then the offense just seemed to stall?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think, you talked about the 6 possessions. We had the 30 going in, and that's kind of like the fringe area, right? We call it in football like the fringe, right? You're right on the precipice of the red zone, and it gets really tight. I do think that Wake Forest did a good job of basically having a different defense when we got in towards the 30. They tightened up, and they went a lot more man-to-man. They brought a lot more pressure on Gio, and I think that's kind of been the recipe, is to, kind of blitz Gio a little bit, stop the running game, put 8 guys in the box. We're not going to be able to run the ball, or we haven't. And then you kind of let Gio try to go make plays, and we weren't capable of doing that. And there was a couple times where, we got backed up or we had a penalty, or it was a false start, and the self-inflicted wounds. I know we've talked about it. The players especially have. Anytime we have a negative effect on a drive, it feels like we just never can overcome that. So I think that's what happened on Saturday. It's kind of just disappointing to see the same theme week in and week out. I know from me up there, it's getting frustrating to see, 3 and outs, and especially when you have a chance on the around the 30. But we've struggled to find explosive plays in the passing game. I think we had only 1 pass over 20 yards, I believe. And that's pretty, that's not going to get it done. And I think you see teams across the league, especially with Duke that we're playing here. I mean, they have a 3,000-yard passer, a 700-yard rusher, and almost a 1,000-yard, pass catcher. And that's pretty consistent. And I don't think we have any of those numbers even close. So I think when you look at our offense, when they sputter, it's when they get off schedule. It's like 2nd and 10 if we don't get any yards on first down. And then it's like, it becomes a 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 10. And guys, those are hard to convert. Those are really, I don't know what the percentages is. When I was coaching, I always used to do the percentages of converting those 3rd and 10s, but I guarantee you it's probably 30% or lower. And that's across the board from college to NFL. So when you get an opportunity, you have to take advantage of it. And I don't think we have this year. I mean, I think about Syracuse. We got the ball at the 6-yard line and kicked the field goal in the first quarter. And then we got the ball at around the 10 to 12-yard line against Stanford off a turnover. 2 defensive possessions got us in the red area, and we kicked the field goal. And that kind of tells the story of the season right there, in my opinion, of we haven't been able to score points, especially 7 points when we've had the opportunities.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. We've seen it throughout the year. We've talked about the red zone struggles, and you mentioned the issues that you're having right now at quarterback. You've got a guy that is limited, that cannot hit those throws down the field. Especially, one thing that we've noticed when we were sitting in the stands is he really seems to struggle with the throws down the sideline. Is that something that you've noticed as well? And I mean, just overall, what do you think is behind the struggles that we're seeing from Gio Lopez?
Yeah, look, I played the position. I've been cut, benched, booed, thrown picks, sacked. So this is coming from a guy that stood in the pocket.
You weren't booed by me, Bryn. I can tell you
no,
that. It was not
never
me
happened.
What was all those State fans, State and Duke fans? That's what it was. That's what we're going to say. No, but I think when you look at Gio, every quarterback has their own journey, and I'm never going to talk poorly about a quarterback. Only evaluate his play. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying he should be benched. I'm not saying he should be not the starter of our team, because I don't make those decisions and I'm not at practice. But I will say, in evaluating his play through 10 weeks, or really 9 weeks, because he didn't play against Clemson, I think he has struggled with the deep ball and accuracy. I think it has kind of been his Achilles heel. Like, he had McGill down the right sideline. Great job of checking the play. He actually did a good job in empty and seeing the one-on-one matchup. It was a linebacker matchup. And that's like, ding, 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 we're going to take a shot. And McGill had him by, 3.5 yards, maybe 4 yards, and he underthrew him. Now, should he have caught it? Probably yes. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those throws where I feel like he's aiming everything because he's not confident. And I feel that 100%. When you're new and there's pressure to make plays, right? Like, everyone is kind of in your ear about Gio's got to make plays, and the play arises. You're like, you want to make the play so bad that ball just kind of hangs on your hand for a little bit longer. And so I think that's what I've seen from him. He's not really going through his progressions, and with his footwork especially, and rhythm timing. There's guys that are potentially open that I see that if he was in his footwork and his drop was lined up with his, with the receiver, it would be 1, 2, 3, ball out, and the ball would come out quicker. I think when you wait and you hang on it for a little bit longer and waiting for receivers to get open, like wide open, that's when you kind of fall into this trap of being late. I think he's late on a lot of throws, whether he can not see them or his progression is just going a little bit slow. Like I said, I've been there, man. Like, I have, like, my first couple starts, I know I sucked. Like, it takes a couple of times to, like, get acclimated with the offense and know what your progression is. And we've seen, 9 weeks of this consistently. So I think, he's just got to get more reps. And if he's going to be the starter for us the next 2 games, he has got a good opportunity to play really well. And I think he has gotten better over the games. Like, he did complete passes against Wake Forest, hitches to the field that were really good throws, and he had some consistency. But I think, the recipe for winning for us is not to have the ball in his hands for 35 throws. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but we have to find some balance. And like I said, we haven't found a running game for him to help him out.
I definitely agree with you. I think you saw really a lot of growth, even in the 2 losses after the bye week. You saw a better version of him. I was thinking about this today, Brand, when preparing for the interview. Carolina, we played 10 games, and they still haven't pared down like their wide receiver core and their running back room. It feels like every game you see different wide receivers out there at different times. You see different running backs out there. Like Damon June had the big game against Syracuse, non-factor the next week. Davian Goss, a big game the week before Wake, but not a factor in this previous game. As a quarterback, how hard is that for you to prepare, not knowing who you're going to hand the football off to 15 to 20 times, or who are you going to throw the ball to? Because I don't mean to disparage like Madrid Tucker, Jalen McGill, but I don't think those guys should be on the field in those situations, and they're being asked to make big plays, and when they don't, it feels like it's costly in terms of the outcome.
Josh, that's a great point, man, because I was thinking the same thing. That's exactly what I had on my notes. You make a great point, and I think the continuity of an offense is sometimes, undervalued, right? I think if you start and look at our offensive line, and I'll start there and then get back to your question, the offensive line has kind of been all over the place. Like Blasky moved back to center. He's battling some injuries. I think it's Hall as a left tackle. He's a freshman. There's a lot of young guys out there that are asking, to be in these roles that really don't have much game experience. And then when you shuffle the offensive line and have injuries, I know like when you change a center, like we've had a couple false starts and like really like snaps have been like great catches by Gio. It changes. Like, I mean, I was very fortunate that I had Russell Bodine and Cam Holland for my 4 years, and we really never switched it up. And Russell became a 3-year starter. So you had that continuity. And then I truly mean this. I think Natron is one of our best coaches on our staff, and I love that he's our running back coach. And I think he's trying to get all 4 guys carries as best way as possible, but it does affect the running game when a runner, like in my opinion, just talking with Gio, and like he was my roommate, I'll never forget, like he needed to get a couple touches to get like going. Like he would come back to the huddle and be like, Bryn, I got to get hit, man. Like he would just like, I want to run this play, or like I want to run power. And like he would find contact. Like the guy's sick. Like he played 10 years in the league, and like he's my boy. And it would be like he would go and find contact because he was like, okay, I got to get my feet wet, see how we're hitting. Like it's part of a rhythm thing. And honestly, guys, I had to get hit in the pocket once to be like, okay, like I'm pissed off now. So it's different things that for different players. But, I have been confused. Like Syracuse, I mean, June was the player of the game by far. Like he had 180 something yards all purpose, like you mentioned. And then really Stanford, he only had a couple carries. I think it was only around 4. And then you look at, the production wasn't there from the entire running back room. It's kind of just been by committee. And I think when you do that, the running back room kind of puts pressure on themselves to go make plays. And like you might only get 1 carry in the whole first half, and then you're thrown back in on a 3rd and 2 and asked to hand off the ball and go get it. Right? Like it's kind of one of those things where, and you kind of see what New England's doing too. Like they didn't start giving Travion Henderson the ball. Now they're realizing that he's the best back in the room. So it's kind of one of those things that's like running back by committee. And I agree with you with the receiver position. Like we're playing a lot of guys, which is great. But at some point you have to find the playmakers that are going to make plays and get those guys the ball. And I think that's something to be said with our offensive play calling as well. Like I just know like my sole job when I first started, and we had Dwight Jones, Eric Highsmith, Eric Ebron, Giovanni Bernard, like those guys are all NFL guys. Like guys, my only job was to be the point guard and get the hell out of the way. Like I remember our offense coordinator, who I love, John Shoup, was like, hey man, you're not the shooting guard. You throw it in the post and you throw it to these guys and get the hell out of the way. Your box score is going to be your splash. And I think that's kind of something to be said because it makes your job easier as a quarterback. And I don't know if we have that continuity, especially in the backfield.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I mean, yeah, with Damon, you saw it in the game against Syracuse. You don't see him that much against Stanford. Davian Goss leads the team in rushing in the game against Stanford. He doesn't touch the ball a single time. I mean, that's just maddening to me. And I just don't see how, Freddie looks at that. And I guess, so when it comes to like personnel being on the field, that's your position coach, right? That is mostly doing that.
Sure. I think, how it goes throughout the week is you have a coaches meeting the night before or even during the week, and you see how guys progress. Some guys might be banged up. And then we at FIU, when I was with Butch Davis, and he was the best at doing this. Like when I was coaching DBs, like even coaching quarterbacks, he went around the room and he asked every coach, hey, who you're playing, how many reps, what's the rotation, right? Like, so some backs would get, hey, I'm going to get the first 3 series with Giovanni Bernard, for example, and then I'm going to get Romar Morris in for the 4th. And then Gio's going to go for 2, and Romar's going to go for 1, and AJ's going to come back in for the other one. And like, that's how the verbiage goes, is like they had a game plan going in of who was gonna be in on those plays. And even when John Shue would call plays, he would be like, hey, on the headset, hey, we're going 11 personnel. We need Gio. Like, get Gio in. Or he would be like, hey, this play's for Romar. Let's go 11 Romar. Like, we would have tags on who was in. Like, even when receivers, like if we wanted Dwight Jones in, but it was in 12 personnel, he'd be like, hey, let's go 12 Dwight. And like, you would tag it like that. And I know in the NFL, we did the same thing. Like when I was with Baltimore, Steve Smith was our best player. And if Steve wasn't on the field, our OC, Mark Trestman, would be like, hey, we need 11 Steve. So like, you would tag those guys to come in the game because it was a play for them. And I think, that's something that, I all the OCs I've been around have been very good at doing that. And this is kind of the first time that I've seen, I don't know if we have that. We probably do. And I don't want to speak for something I don't know, but I haven't seen it consistently.
How much do you think the transfer portal has played a role in how they rotate the reps?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been looking at about that, across college football. I hope it doesn't affect as much as I think, but I think all coaches want to win. So I think you're going to put the best players out there, and no matter what. But I think looking at this team, I don't know if we have anybody that is thinking about the portal because we're so young, but I do think it might play a little bit of a role. But you want to get everyone touches and get them involved, and I do think we have a good running back room. I think everyone provides something different, right? And McGill just got here in August, like he's a freshman, and June just got here in August, like he's a freshman, and Bullitt has been here and he backed up as number 7th overall pick, and I thought. Going into the season, Davion was going to be better to be the number 1 back. And even when we had Kayla Hood in the rotation, I think we were going 5 deep. So it's different. And I like I said, it's what you see at practice. It's guys that are banged up. Maybe there's injuries we don't know, but it's kind of a different rotation. It seems like a rotation in basketball. Like if it's a hot shooter, I always like giving the hot guy the ball.
So, yeah, let's go over to the defensive side of the ball because, that's where you coached and everything like that. So you got a good view of that side of the ball as well. And Carolina really, I think, has found themselves on that side of the football. I think Steve Belichick has done a tremendous job of, scheming some things up. He's found the personnel. Like, speaking of the offensive side, I think you still are trying to find which personnel actually work in which formations. I feel like Steve Belichick has identified that, and it's allowed him to be more successful as we've gone down the stretch here. You see the type of performances from guys like Milcar Bujade, Tyler Thompson, the way they were able to get after the quarterback prior to this week against Robbie Ashford and Wake Forest. But what have you seen on that side of the ball? Why do you think there has been so much growth on that side of the football?
Yeah, and those are all. Look, that is the one side of the ball that I've been impressed with, and we haven't seen a defense like this in a long, long time. And I think to answer your question, they've improved every single week, and they have gotten better in some area where they struggled earlier in the season. I think having 2 really good pass rushers is incredible to have. I mean, those guys are sack monsters. They didn't have much production against Wake, but Wake was really targeting them. And chipping them on the way out, and the tackles did a good job of kind of, there are guys you need to stop on that side. So it looked like it was an emphasis for Wake all week to make sure they didn't have an impact on the game. But those guys over there, and it's a Belichick coached team, right? This is kind of what he wants, I think, is to have a really good defense, an offense that controls the ball with the running game when you can have it. And I think just the offense hasn't produced. But I think if you had an offense that was a pro-style offense, hey, we can score 21 points to 28 points, then we would have won a couple more games. And I think you have to be extremely proud of the way this defense has kept us in games, especially giving us great field position. We just haven't executed on offense. But if you look at the defense, I thought the secondary has improved so much. We play a ton of man-to-man guys. Like, I don't know how many snaps it is, but it feels like every time I see a ball go up, there's a defender right there to play through his hands. And I love Marcus Allen and what he's done his senior year. I think he's really come on for a struggling start to the year. I think Caleb Koss, I know he was injured last game, but he's done a really good job with the nickel spot. And we've had guys step up with Thaddeus Dixon being out. And we really haven't given up many long plays. I mean, they ran a flea flicker last play, and that was a 70-yard touchdown, but that's kind of one of those special plays, which is going to happen. But, I mean, look at Andrew Simpson and Kamari House. They've done a really good job of making tackles. And I mean, guys, they play really, really hard, as you guys see every Saturday, and they keep us in the game. And they're going to have to keep doing that. And I think as long as Coach Belichick is here, I think our defense is going to be pretty stout. And now if you can just marry that up with a consistent offense that scores, we're going to be lights out. So I don't think there's much concern for us on defense. And the defensive line as a whole, interior as well. Mims has done a great job. I mean, I just think about the rotation that they have. They can go like 6 or 7 deep and get pressure and stop the run. I mean, not many teams have run on us since, honestly, since the TCU game. And that's really impressive. And it's fun to watch this defense. I mean, I never thought I would say it as a quarterback, but like I enjoy when the defense jogs out there.
What's really been impressive too about the defensive line is they feel somewhat undersized, and they've really been able, I think, to overcome that. I've got to pick your brain because you said you've been really impressed with Marcus Allen. Let's just say I have had a few choice words for his level of play at different times this year. I feel like if there's one corner that gets picked on, it's been him, whether it's a big pass play, big penalties, so on and so forth. But you obviously see the game differently than I do. What has impressed you about the way he stepped up this year, especially once Thaddeus Dixon went down?
Yeah, I think, playing defensive back, and I coached him for 2 years, is a very, very hard position. You're isolated, especially with all the man-to-man, like I said, that we've been playing. And it's one of those positions where you have to have short-term memory, and you really have to play the next play because you could have an opportunity that changes the game. It's probably one of the most important positions on the team that no one really appreciates. They just only remember when you get beat. And I used to have to tell our guys all the time it's a 4-quarter game and those receivers get tired. So you can't get tired. And he's kind of just been battling all year. He's been more aggressive. He hasn't lost his confidence. And I think the whole defensive back room kind of has to have a shooter's mentality. Like you have to be like, I'm going to get the next one. And I got to, sometimes like I even think about some of the we used to call them, competitive balls that have been like the guy will catch it and like it bobbles out of his hands. He catches it again. Like it's tough when your back's turned to like not know where the ball is. And that's what's crazy is that position is so volatile on, I just think about all like the Malcolm Butler play when the guy catches it on his butt. Malcolm Butler made a hell of a play. The guy just caught it. And you got things like that during the course of a season that are just going to happen. But that kid has not stopped fighting and being in the right position. And yeah, I think every defensive back kind of has to go through some growing pains, especially early in the year. But I think we do play the most man-to-man in the conference. And I think that's a part of it. What I'm seeing is like it's really tough to play man-to-man for 4 quarters, and I think you're going to give up something eventually. And so, I think having 2 solid guys at that position, can we get better in the portal and probably next year? Yeah, I think we could. But for him as a senior to kind of staying a little bit consistent, he's played every single game. I think he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, and one of the guys that we talked about the last time that you were on, we saw surface level stuff on Jaden Patterson. What do you think about him? And I think he's playing so well that when Thaddeus Dixon does come back, it's going to be really hard to take him off the field because of what he's doing. What would you do with him when Thad comes back?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Patterson has done a really good job filling in with Thad. And, he plays the field corner, so there's less opportunities, I feel like, just during the course of the game. And, what I would do is I might move Patterson inside and play the nickel and start playing slot receivers. And I think if you can have a corner type body when you do go nickel, it really helps out because he's going to be able to defend probably their second best receiver. Like we always went, Your X is going to be obviously your number one go-to guy, but then that slot guy kind of becomes your next threat of being the best player on the field and shifty. I would probably either, like when Thad comes back, if he's in shape and ready to roll, like let him compete and say, hey, you're either going to rotate at corner or you're going to go inside and rotate with Caleb Cost and play nickel, and see if he can step down in the run game. I think that nickel position is such an intriguing one for me, is because, I think when you're at the nickel spot, you have to play the run. And so many teams, kind of run at the nickel. You're seeing it a lot in the NFL when people go 11 personnel and it's base. That tight end position is tough to cover because he's bigger. He can block you. And people are going base to match up with base. And so you're going to kind of have to move Thompson inside to go play nickel a little bit and see how he does. But I think it's a good problem to have when you got Thad, Allen and Thompson. And then when Allen leaves, you can kind of move Patterson. You can move Patterson to the other corner and have Thad and kind of have that nucleus of DBs, which I think we've done a great job of recruiting those and developing those.
Bryn, I want to revisit the last time we had you on. If you remember, that was a wild Wednesday in and around the program. A lot of reports that some were proven true, some were proven false. But, your message as a former player was this could be the turning point where this team comes together. That was kind of your hope, your belief. And I do think that happened. I think you saw a different team when Carolina went and played that late game on the road at Cal. And ever since then, it's felt more like a team, and it feels like Bill Belichick has established more of his culture, and the players are responding to that. Do you get that same feeling as well, as ever since that moment, it's kind of felt like that was a turning point, and we can look back at maybe that was the tip in the right direction if Bill Belichick and this NFL coaching staff figures it out at the college level?
Yeah, of course, and I think the course of a season, everything is up and down. You're an emotional roller coaster during the year. And you really don't have much time to blink. And just looking at kind of what I wrote down about, the course of the season and how we've progressed, everyone has to take ownership about what has transpired. Coaches, players, everyone in the building, and look at yourself in the mirror. And I think it starts with the players, like I think I mentioned last time, of, hey, look, this ultimately is our team. The coaches really can't go out and make any plays. Can they set us up for success? Absolutely, for 6 days. But what kind of, what sparks a team is that leadership in the locker room. And, I remember when we went through the coaching changes, when Coach Davis got fired and Everett came in, and we started off 5-1. And we were going through NCAA allegations, and we went on the road and played Clemson and didn't play too particularly well and lost by 2 scores. I didn't play well. But we came back, and we still went to a bowl game every year. And it was kind of a decision that we made. We didn't give it. I'm going to cuss again. I can't cuss, but we didn't give a crap. I got somebody commented about that. So I'm trying to hold it back, boys. I got the locker room mentality, but
the pump fake. It's all good.
Yeah. It's like we don't give a crap who the coach is. We're out there making plays, and every player has to take ownership for their role on the team, whether it's running down on kickoff, whether it's being the L4 on kickoff, or you're on kickoff return and you play one play or you play 100. You have to take ownership of your role. And I think that team did that to get those 2 wins. And I think what was a step back for me was the Wake Forest game, and kind of the effort and intensity level has to improve, the energy. And I think, and not to be like, this is something that I want to talk about, is you have to understand what it means to wear that interlocking NC and how many people are really like have a stake in ownership. Like, we care about it. Like, I mean, I live and die by these guys. And I think that's something that this team has to understand is you got to have energy, man. It's got to mean so much to you that the outside noise, you don't give a crap. Like, what's going on, whether it's with Coach Belichick, with the media, someone doesn't like me, it's Twitter, my NIL. I don't give a crap. I really don't. I want you to play the best you can on Saturdays. Like, I just know that's the only thing that you can do. If people are saying things or there's distractions, play better, go win. And I think when we played Wake Forest, they had that and we didn't. And I think that was the biggest deciding factor. And it could have been why we, fell short to UVA and fell short to Cal. Is like, you have to have a killer instinct. Like, I do think we got punked a little bit at Wake Forest. They had more energy. They wanted it more. Like you saw it in the fourth quarter. We didn't beat them for 4 years. And I know when we didn't beat State for 5, how much that meant to me. I would have died on the field. I really would have, to beat NC State, because I knew if I left my career and we didn't do that, we beat them the last 2 years I was there. And that's the proudest I've ever been. People have to understand the magnitude of these games that we're about to approach. Duke and State. I couldn't sleep at night. It was like I just wanted to beat the shit out of them so bad, and for a multitude of reasons. And I think in college football, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. You're not dealing with pros. Like pros, when I was in the pros, it was grown men that had to put food on the table. Totally different mentality. You didn't even know who was in your locker room on defense. But now when you're in a college locker room, it was like, those are my best friends. So I had personal pride not to let them down. So when you look at the culture of the team, you have to start with that and say, look, man, this is who we are. This is where we are. We can either lay down and say we're let them all be right, or we can prove them wrong. And you can beat Duke and State and everyone ends on a high note. And I think you got to preach those messages. And I think what we don't have in the locker room right now is a group of kids that are from the state. Like, think about how many kids that grew up in the state of North Carolina. Like, I can only think of like June on offense, but everyone else, I mean, they're from different parts. So like, I mean, I had everybody that got in the huddle, it was like a kid from North Carolina that played against these kids in high school. So it meant more. And I think that's just something that's lost in college football as a whole. So you got to preach that if you're the coach. And I think, going back to your point of where the turning point, I think we did turn it around. I think we took a step back, and I'm looking forward to seeing if this team takes a step forward.
So, I mean, yeah, first of all, I mean, your comment about NC State, I could just kiss you, man. I mean, honestly, that's how we feel. That's how we feel.
Yeah, it is.
We absolutely hate them. And I try to communicate this to people where they say that, NC State's not our rival. That may be the case when it comes to basketball. In football, I hate them more than anybody. I absolutely hate anything about that university. It just makes me sick to my stomach. So to hear you say that as a player, because honestly, we have questioned that on this podcast for years. Do you believe that the guys on the field actually think that way? Because it feels like now everybody's kind of buddy-buddy. Everybody knows each other and everything like that. Even, the guys you talked about, in-state guys, feels like everybody knows everybody. But I think we started to see it crank up a little bit last year with the flag planting. You saw J.J. Jones say, no, this isn't happening. We're going to make sure that we're defending our home field, even if we didn't necessarily do it on the field. I mean, let me ask you about something like that. I mean, we hopefully won't have to experience that this year with Duke. But when it comes to those displays, and you saw, Carolina players getting a little fired up after the Wake Forest game, what was your mindset on the field of a player when you would be disrespected by one of your rivals or something like that?
Yeah, I'm probably the worst guy to ask that question. You guys saw me play, and man, I played like a linebacker stuck in a quarterback's body. Like, I wanted to kill somebody every play. Like, I had to be tamed at certain points of the game because I was so pissed off. And I wanted to win so bad. I'm just that much of a competitor. And my teammates would tell you the same thing. Like, I didn't mess around. Like, I was totally focused in practice. But, like, every game it meant something. Like, I didn't have friends on other teams. Like, I actually was most hated probably in the entire ACC because I tried to pick fights. And I got my linemen in trouble because they're like, you need to stop talking shit because that guy's coming harder. I'll tell you an interesting story. Mike Lennon, I was a rival of mine in high school. And Mike went to NC State, and he was a year above me. And we played Mike in the region final my junior year, his senior year, before he went to State. And I was already committed to Carolina. And they beat us. And like the fourth quarter came back. And I'll never forget that moment because I remember being like, wait till I get to Carolina. We're going to have to lose to them. And so when I got my opportunity to play them in 2012, when they came here, I was a mission, man. I was talking shit. I mean, Mike and I were almost rivals since we were kids. And then like we got to Carolina and just carried over. But like, he's a friend now, but it's like taking a lot. Like, we don't talk during state week. Like, we don't speak. Like, we don't play golf together. Like, I still have a pissed off mentality towards him. And I think you have to have that edge. Like you have to, and I watched so much of Brady when he's talking about his edge, right? Like we've seen those clips of like, he wasn't even friends with Manning. Like he had to find an edge within himself to get pissed off to go play his best. And I think that's when you perform, is when people hate you, they don't think you're any good. You find something, the little nuances. I hate the color of Duke's like blue. It sucks. Nobody wears that shit ever. And like, I just don't like Duke people. Like I don't have any Duke friends. I don't have any State friends. Like I can't call the game at NC State because it's at NC State. I know what I'll do. Like I just can't go. So I'm not going to go to that game. I'll never go to that stadium. I can't go to Duke. Like those are two games that I just cross off. Hey man, I'm not even like, don't even think about it. And I think that's the mentality that no matter the opponent, like I'm a kid from Virginia. Like I hated Virginia Tech. I hated Bud Foster, still do. Like I saw him today with James Franco.
yeah.
Man, I want to throw for 300 on you right now, brother. Like, because I already did that, you know? And so I would get the offense in that mentality during the week. Like I would say things to our linemen. I would pull stuff up on the internet and be like, hey man, they don't think we can run the ball. Even if it wasn't true, like nobody might've said shit. I would just spark them. And then like during the game, I would just be like, hey man, that dude's, he's bodying you a little bit. What do you say? So like people respond to the challenge, right? And I think that this team needs to get that effing edge of like, yo, man, this is Kenan Stadium. Don't come in here. And I'll never forget, we had Everett Withers was our coach, and we were playing State, and actually this was Larry Fedora. He would allow a penalty to happen. He's like, yo, you got one free 15. Personal foul. We'll take it.
I love that.
I love that mentality, man. Hey, give me free 15. Look, if it's not in the score zone or they have an opportunity to score and we're in good field position, let's get a 15. Like, let's just get one. Let's spark something. And I'll never forget, too, when Kevin Reddick got in a fight at the back of the end zone. Do you guys remember this? With one of the receivers from NC State. This was 2009 or 2010, and he got ejected. It was Russell Wilson's year when he threw the ball that Houdini played and threw the ball in the back of the end zone. And Kevin punched the dude. And it was like all hell broke loose. And that's what rivalries are about. That's how you should play. You know, and I would call it competitive aggression, right? You're playing to the whistle, and you don't want to do it all the time, but it sparks the team. Like Wake Forest was a step away from getting a couple personal fouls because they were hitting to the whistle. And like, I don't know, like this team has to have that identity where they're so pissed off of people talking shit, and they just say, hey, look, we're putting our head down. We're going to go play some ball, and it's going to be physical 4 quarters. And I know how I played. Like, guys, I was trying to throw for 300 every game and making sure everybody knew like that I was doing that. And that's what helped me get through that process. But that's just my mentality. And like, I grew up with a colonel in the Marines as a grandfather, and my dad was a 40-year high school football coach. And I mean, nobody cussed me out worse than him, and he's my best friend. So it's like, that's how I grew up, man. It was either you won or lost, and you weren't eating if you lost.
I got a few more for you, Brandon, then we'll let you go. So, you know, with that in mind, you know, we've got a coach that's now coaching in college that spent a lot of years at the NFL level. And I thought that we would look at these last 3 games, Wake, you know, Duke this week and then State, and he would treat them like he treated division games at the NFL level when he was with the Patriots, and he dominated those games. Do you think Bill Belichick has a grasp of how important these, especially these last 2 games? Like these are the 2 games that, especially if you make a bowl, you know, you win these last 2, you make a bowl game, but we blew a 21-point lead last year to Duke, and we were all sick after it. We haven't beaten State in 4 years. And for me, that, I mean, it gnaws at us. Do you think he has a grasp of how important these 2 games are to us as fans, and maybe that'll go into the motivation and the preparation to come away with the wins, the final 2 games?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because I actually was driving home and thought the same thing. I was like, okay, you know, I don't even think about Wake often. Like,
no one does.
But they beat us, right? It's you know, it's one of those things, and it hadn't started to piss me off until like we started talking about it again. But the 48 hours, I was like, I don't even think about Wake, but now I'm pissed and I don't like them. And I think from a person coming from the outside, it's really hard to understand how much these games mean to us, and how the longevity of, if whoever wins or loses, it's a year-long thing until you go play again. Like, it's nonstop. It's unmerciful. Your Twitters are blowing up. Like, it's tough, the group chats. And I think Coach Belichick he's had such a great career and had those rivalries in the NFL, especially like you mentioned with the division games. But there's something about college football that it takes you a little bit to understand. And I think he understood that after the Wake game when there was a melee towards the end. I think it finally clicked for him with like, oh, crap, this means a lot to everybody. And this is the entire state, and I represent that. And, I think that's something that you have to be in one of those games to let it finally click. And I think he's going to realize that, kind of going into these next two games, because it is tough. I think unless you're in the stadium where everyone's booing you or it means so much, it's like, you guys probably have neighbors that are Duke and State fans. Like, that's a lot. I couldn't do that, man. Like, it would be tough. Like, I'll move away. I'll go get another house or something, right? Like, my parents live in Chapel Hill, and I make sure that, like, hey, are you sure? Are they State fans or Duke fans? Like, when somebody moves in. And I think it's just that level of type of competitive aggression has to be understood through playing the games. But I think he does understand it, but just on a different level of the NFL. But even the NFL, like, you play those teams twice a year. So it kind of becomes monotonous of I'm already playing that team. So when you only get one opportunity to make a statement within the entire state, and it affects recruiting, it affects your relationships, it affects everything. And, you're kind of defined by whether you beat Duke or State if you're a Carolina Tar Heel. Like, you really are.
Yeah, I think you are 100% right. That's definitely what we sort of define you as. And I think, with Belichick, I'm not worried about Duke because he said, when he was at his introductory press conference, my first words were beat Duke, but I'm worried about State, man. And I just, if Bill, I don't know, there's no way this is getting back to you. But if it does, man, you got to know that's the most important game for us because you're right. We have to deal with these people every day, these fans of Duke and State that, for us, just annoy the hell out of us. And those are games we definitely want to win. I wanted to ask you a career question for you. Looking back at it, I think we know if I just asked you what was your favorite memory of playing at Carolina, like what game do you think stands out the most? It would probably be that win over NC State. There's no doubt, especially because you threw for 358 yards in that game. But if you take that game off of the table, which one is it that really sticks out to you? And can I take a guess real quick? Would it be the game that same year, 2012, against Virginia Tech? Would that be one that sticks out for you?
Man, I told my dad this. I got goosebumps because I literally told him last night when James Franklin got the job and I saw Bud Foster. I told you that. I was like, man, that whiteout game when we played Virginia Tech and we were rolling, boys. Like, we were rolling and we were having a lot of fun. We were scoring points at will. Like, that was – we were averaging 35 points a game. And it was like that was when offense was really clicking and Larry was doing a great job and Blake Anderson was calling plays. But, Virginia Tech, when we played them in that whiteout and Gio went for like 250, maybe like around over 200. And we threw the ball pretty well. And it was so much fun, boys, because in the fourth quarter, it's like when you take another team's soul, it's like the best. And I think like the State game, like, if you guys remember the State game, I was getting booed or we were getting booed in like the third quarter because we didn't score for like 2 straight quarters. Like, second quarter, we didn't score. We went out hot. They came back. And then in the fourth quarter, we had to have a drive with 2 minutes left to go tie it. And Ebron drops a ball where he would have walked in the end zone and we would have won in regulation. I'll never forget that play because I talk shit about him all the time. Like, you could have been the hero. And now Gio's the hero. Like, Gio's everybody's favorite player. Like, you could have been the hero, Ebron. And so – we ended up kicking a field goal and Gio returns the punt. And that was just so electric, man. And that's the loudest I've ever heard Keenan, and I probably ever will, of that was the energy that these kids need to understand that's how much it means. Because we didn't beat them for like, I think it was 5 years till that point. And then you go back to the Virginia Tech game. I think we were rolling at that point and we were already bowl banned. So like, this was another thing that like I wanted to mention. Like, we won the ACC Coastal Division and couldn't play for the title and play Florida State. And we knew that. And so we had this mission of if we can't go, you're not going. Like, you're not going to the ACC title game because they were rolling too, and they had Logan Thomas, and we took their soul, man. We were on a mission to take other people's souls because we knew we had a really good team of a lot of pros that was rolling. And I think, that mentality and those favorite games are something you can't get back. Like, that's what you remember for the rest of your life of how you prepared, how you went into it, and that competitive aggression that you had. Like, he's getting me fired up right now. Like, I want to play on Saturday. Like, I know I could throw for 300 on Saturday, just pure will. And, like, I know I could do that. So if anybody wants me to suit up and take Gio's jersey, I'll do it. But, like, I mean, I'm a 35-year-old. Like, I'll look like a guy that's playing in the XFL, but we'll be all right. And give me 3 quarters and we'll be good. We'll win in the 4th. But I'm kidding. But those type of memories are something you live with your boys for the rest of your life, of how you trained, how you prepared. And it means more, man. Like, I always wanted to be like, I want Anthony and Josh to be like, man, Bryn played his balls off. Like, he left it all out there, man. Like, I don't care. And I'll never forget another good game that I want to, talk about is I tore my labrum and fractured my scapula against State my senior year. Like, career was over. I go in at halftime and I'm like, dude, I'm done, man. I felt it go. Like, my whole dreams of NFL, like, all this stuff is going through my head. And I remember being in there and I'm like, dude, man, I got to finish this game. And I ended up coming back in the 4th quarter, and I threw my last completion was to TJ Thorpe on a 3rd and 6. We ran mesh, like 2 crossing routes, and I threw it to him. I had no shoulder, caught it with my, like, right here, and just threw it to him. First down, we iced the game. Queese came in, and that was the last snap I ever took. And I was like, I'm beating State. You can't take me off this field. I will promise you the last thing I want to do is them cheering for me getting hurt, and then having them lasting effect. I wanted to see them walk off. And I'll never forget, I was like doing an interview with ACC, and I saw a red just walk out. And I was just like, this is the most satisfying feeling I can have as a college athlete. Like, you maximize what you had, and that's what makes sports special. That's what makes this interlocking NC unbreakable. That's why we have a bond, and that's why every time I see you guys, we dap it up, hug, because that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to our fans. And these guys got to hear that, man. Like, they got to hear people talk about how much these next 2 games mean, because a lot of them haven't played in it. And that's what's concerning for me.
Last thing I have for you, Bryn, is also kind of a career question, but it's more of where you are now as a broadcaster. We got a chance to see your reaction from the Damon June touchdown against Syracuse. And it was the caption was, "We're all Bryn Renner when big plays happen." Obviously, we've had a chance to interview you twice. You're very energetic. You're very passionate. So 2 things. 1, have they had to dump you over the air because you've said something you can't say on radio? And
Yes.
then 2, just what's that been like up there working with Jones? I mean, we have a relationship with Jones. I've interviewed him a handful of times. I know him on a personal level. I think he's one of the best play-by-play men in the country. What's that kind of been like for you, being up in the booth with him, getting to call these Carolina games?
Man, I've really pinched myself. It's such a cool experience when you get in the stadium, and it's a different type of butterflies. Like, you're nervous before the game. You don't want to screw up or say anything bad, and you get so emotionally wrapped up into it. And I'll say this about Jones, and this is a really cool story. When I first started, in 2011, it was, or 2000, yeah, I guess it was, 2011. It was his first year replacing Woody. And I'll never forget, like, he was nervous, I was nervous, and it was like one of those things where we bonded over that. And we've always had a really good relationship. And I this, I think Jones is the best to honestly do it in the ACC. And he could be doing it at a higher level, but he loves Carolina so much. Like, right. It is so cool to work with Jones Angel. I can't even tell you, because he's so knowledgeable. I mean, the guy does the basketball game at 3 a.m. and then we'll do a noon kickoff and not miss a beat and be energetic. And like, that's where you feed off the energy in the press box with. Like, I love working with him. I'm so honored to, and he needs more credit in the Carolina community. I think he gets it, but like, we can't say enough things about Jones. And I think for me, like, when you see those type of reactions, it's the passion that just comes out. Man, I've always been like this. I love sports. I love the heels, man. Like, when Damon June was going down the sideline, like, that's an emotional reaction that I would have when I was playing. Like, you're never going to take that away from me. And that's just it's such a cool feeling for the player. And like, it's just such a blessing to honestly, like, be able to be a part of, just the broadcast. Cause I know how much it meant to me when people would come up and they would be calling the games and just it's so much fun. And I even like doing this podcast, connecting with you guys. Like that's what being a Tar Heel is about to me. Like it's the relationships that you build and man, like we're gonna be doing this for a while and like I'm always gonna be around the program and want it to be successful. And I think when you do this podcast, I think people kind of get this. Like especially for me this year, this is kind of like the first time where people have been like, oh, you're negative or whatever. I'm like, it's not really negativity. It's like when your dad's mad at you and because you could have done better, right? Like, you could have done better. Like we just want
I'm not
best
mad.
effort.
I'm disappointed. I've heard that a lot growing up.
Thank you. It's exactly right. Like, we want to see best effort. We want to see, like, I'm not even mad about UVA and the Cal loss. That's the best effort, man. Like we freaking fought our tails off. I'm mad about the weight gain, like, because I don't know if it was our best. And so I think when I was a player and even doing it on the broadcast, I want to give my best effort because I know people depend on me to do that. And when people depend on me, man, I'm a team guy. I don't want to let you down. I got too much personal pride. So I appreciate you guys always having me and having my back. I appreciate that.
Oh, dude, you don't have to worry about that, man. We're always going to have your back. You are one of those guys that when people have said in the past, all these great Carolina quarterbacks, like don't forget Bryn Renner, man. Don't forget that year that he had, not your final year, but the junior year. I mean, yeah, that was an amazing season. And I remember that as a kid. TJ Yates was my first quarterback, but you were definitely the guy that, really got me into the sport, being able to watch it. And so, week to week. And so I think it's amazing that we get to have you on the podcast. Like, you don't even know, dude, like this entire day, like I've been just giddy at the fact that we're going to have you on the podcast because it's so awesome. You're such a cool dude. And for you to give us the time, I think it's just amazing, that we get to connect like this because, for some guys, I mean, and I won't name former players, but there have been former players I've reached out to and they've said, look, you need to pay me to be on the podcast, stuff like that. With you, it just feels like we're talking to another buddy. Like we're just a couple of guys hanging out, just talking. And we can't thank you enough for giving us that time and just allowing, us to get someone that's so open with their opinions and everything like that here on the podcast. So thank you, man.
Man, it's my honor. I appreciate all you guys and like this, it means a lot to me, man. Like almost makes me emotional because it's so much fun. Like I just love talking ball and talking about the Heels. So anytime you guys want to have me, I'm always available.
Heck yeah, man. So, yeah, we'll have to do it again, especially once the season is over. And, guys, we are coming down the stretch, so make sure that you tune in. We'll be back on Friday. We'll be doing the preview for the Duke game, so make sure that you guys tune in for that. We'll have everything on the website for you guys around the weekend, and make sure you head over there right now and check out all the basketball content that we got as well. Same thing when it comes to the podcast on this same channel that you're watching this edition of the podcast here on. So want to thank Bryn for stopping by with us. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.